Stream go. All right. Hello, everybody. Lori Swanson here, CEO of Inspire Tech, the founder of Career Alchemy Academy, and coming to you with my weekly live broadcast, talking about topics that are interesting and to me have kind of made me curious about things and are also in response to what I'm hearing from my coaching clients about what's important to them. And today's no different, even though it didn't start like some of my uh, conversations that I have with you all here live on LinkedIn. Often start from a story based on something that happened during coaching, or even back in my recruiting days. But this one comes from because not only do I coach people, but I'm a firm believer that having a coach makes a difference in many, many ways to creating great career satisfaction. So I'm part of a coaching community for coaches, essentially, for CEOs, entrepreneurs, many of which have coaching communities, though there's also CEOs of other small to mid-sized companies in this group. And so the one of the women in the group had been talking about the fact that they were reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. So if you haven't read Atomic Habits or you haven't heard about it, I'd be shocked. But it's essentially the idea that change happens through small, consistent action, right? And and so she was just asking the community, hey, what are the small changes, the small consistent action, the tiny habits that you have in place to support your business? And the responses were, as you would expect, and also pertinent, even if you're not a CEO, right? About how people set themselves up for success in their businesses, but also in their careers. Responses like, I plan my day at the end of the day, right? So before I end my day, I've already set up what I'm going to do the next day, so I'm not sitting there spinning like, where do I go first? They prioritize their actions, so I know what I'm going to do, but in what order am I going to do them? That's also very helpful. It's kind of the Mark Twain quote of, if you've got to eat a bunch of frogs, eat the biggest one first. I paraphrase, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like, what's the big frog that if you can take a bite out of that, it'll make everything. For me, it's like I feel accomplished no matter what else gets done that day. And also, making progress on something that's not just a simple check on the to-do list, but might take more time, might have more people involved, but eat that frog first, right? So prioritizing the action steps you're going to be taking on your to-do list. Some of them were self-care related, like putting yourself to bed on time, or meal prep, right? Or eating healthy, or working out. But one of the responses was what prompted this blog. And someone said, I organize my desk. And I don't know why this thought came into my head, but it was like, oh, she must be a visual learner. And, I don't know why it came into my head. I can see where the connection came, having a space that's organized, for a visual learner, being able to sit down at their space in the morning and, things are where they are expected to be, and the space looks visually organized, clear, ready to go. You know where to find things. So you can see how my brain connected that. But it sort of surprised me because I went from, what are some tiny habits to, oh, they're a visual learner. And so thinking about that, then of course, I tap into AI and I'm like, tell me more about how, organizing your desk, or even more importantly, a learning style, can create more meaning and purpose in a career, and as well as more efficiencies, more productivity, those sorts of things. Like, how can we bring our learning career, our learning style, not into just how we're taking in information, you know, and I, as a recruiter, I worked and helped build a lot of learning and development teams for my clients. I also coach learning and development people now, and they're, creating these fabulous, um, uh, you know, digital courses, let's say, for example, that make sure that they hit on all the different learning styles so no one's left behind. But it's more than that. I really got the sense, I'm like, the reason that my brain's making this connection is because of the work that I do around meaning and purpose and aligning your career with the things that matter most to you. And I thought, how can your learning style, is there any connection there? I didn't know, but I just was curious. Was there any connection? And so so then what I did was, like I said, went to our friends over there at the different AI tools and did a little bit of research on learning styles. I just wanted to remind myself of the different types of learning styles and then begin to think about how a learning style might actually, impact career meaning. And when I talk about career meaning, it isn't just having a purpose, right, in your career, but it's more this sense that that the work fits who you are, that it's how you're wired, so to speak. And so most people don't realize, but the way you naturally take in information, your learning style, right, your predominant learning style, has a direct impact on your career path, your confidence, your motivation, your sense of purpose. So there we go. There's, for me, it was like, oh, I see why it was the connection. I consider my expanded self, sort of dropping in this, like, you need to follow that track right there. You need to, that's going to lead you to something. And so I believe that when you understand how you learn, you can unlock a hidden advantage in, for yourself, for your team, but specifically, I'm thinking about just personally how you navigate promotions or a job search, or communicating with your team or with leadership, or customers. Like, understanding your learning style can help you in all these other areas as well. And especially if you're at a career crossroads, like many of my clients who come to me are, and you're reinventing yourself, or on a job search that isn't going as planned, understanding your learning style, I think, might be helpful. So I have my notes, and let's talk about the 4 primary learning styles. And it's, you may know this, and what I will say, that there are these 4 primary learning styles, and I'm actually a pretty even combination of a couple of them. And I think that's true for many people, that they'll have, different type, they'll have, we don't just learn one way, but we will have a learning style maybe that is more predominant, and knowing that can be very helpful. So the 4 primary learning styles, and just through what I'm going to define to you, I think you can kind of get a sense of, like, yeah, I do definitely learn that way. So the first one is a visual learner. So it's someone who understands best when they can see something. So they recognize patterns really well. They're shape thinkers. They're meaning makers out of, they see something and they make meaning out of it very easily. They understand that what they see influences how they feel and what they believe is possible, right? That person on the call who said she organizes her desk, that she sees her desk. That's the first thing she sees when she walks, gets into her office. And so because she's a visual learner, how that desk looks can impact literally her whole day. Is it chaotic and things are out of order and there no sense, then that can just impact her, how she's feeling, her stress levels. You can see how that can, you know, set you up for a less efficient, less productive, less satisfying day. So, and also can, go from sort of an open-minded possibility about the day to a more narrow kind of, let's just figure out how to get myself back on track, or on track, and where to go from there. So when you think about career meaning and being a visual learner, and the big insight I think around that is that if your environment looks outdated or cluttered, disorganized, maybe even tied to a past version of yourself, past roles you've been in, like you still got some of that stuff that you no longer use anymore, but it was these tools on your desk that maybe you no longer use anymore, or even a motivational quote that at certain point in your career, it was very inspirational for you and really helped you, but now it doesn't anymore. It's time to just like get rid of those things, because it can leave you feeling stuck and uninspired. But if your environment reflects your vision for your career, it reflects the potential that you have, not only the reality, but also the potential, not only the present day, but the vision, it looks, it's set up in such a way. Again, we're talking about a desk, but your whole environment is set up in such a way. Your resume, for example, is designed in such a way that it feels aligned with who you are today, aligned with the words, aligned with your values. Your career will expand to match that. So that's the first one, visual learners. And some of the things, well, let me just add this. Some of the things you can do as a visual learner in order to, I already talked about, like, really just with a discerning eye, looking at your environment, or the different tools that you use in your work and making sure they're up to date, making sure that you get rid of things that aren't. But you also might create kind of a future self vision board that you see daily. I have a one over here, and it's a real reminder of where I'm, what I desire and where I'm going. And when I look at it, there's something that happens. There's also on there, when I'm looking at it over here next to me, there's also an experience on there with my family of karaoke that brings me such joy when I see that helps, bring joy immediately into my day. So creating like a future self vision board of what you desire that you're keeping in front of you is helpful for a visual learner. Using visual planning tools like color coding, for example, or Kanban boards. I have a friend who's got different colored pens for different things on their calendar. This also, refreshing just the office decor can be helpful. Changing out your office mug, highlighting your achievements in some way, with wins and celebrations, maybe. And I do this, people will send me testimonials, my clients who I got one recently from a young woman saying, that in our first coaching conversation, she just wanted to acknowledge the impact that I had and how it shifted her from kind of a limited mindset into a more open mindset that created some activities that led to a contract for her, all in just this one call, right? And I cut out that little thing, and I have it sitting over here that I have a book. I'll show you guys. So I have a book, right, that's filled with things like that I just add to, inspire, a lot of Post-it notes in there, but I just add to it. And when someone sends me a testimonial of things, I'll put it on a Post-it. I am a visual person and a visual learner, and this is very helpful to me. And who doesn't want to read a compliment that someone gave them, like every day? Me, raise your hand, me. So those are some ways that you can enhance your career by setting up your environment to be in line with yourself as a visual learner. So what's the second learner? So the second type that I want to talk about is an auditory learner. So this is someone who understands best when they can hear it. So auditory learners think in language, they think in rhythm or tone or conversation. They like having conversations. They don't need a PowerPoint to help them. They just need to hear the words, and then they can that are spoken clearly, communicated clearly, and from there they can they know what they need to do next. And if you thrive in auditory learning and you like to hear encouragement, you like clarity, you like feedback, you know, that's one of the best ways that you can, tune in so you can improve yourself. You like hearing new perspectives. You like that conversation about a topic. Isolation is just kills you. You like the community of people. That connection fuels you, right? And so how can you enhance your career by aligning your learning style, an auditory learning style, with just some practical things? So one of the things an auditory person can do is like a voice memo, like record your career goals in a voice memo so that you can listen back to them daily, or set up collaborative conversations. If the emails or the texts are going back, and you can feel anxiety, tension, stress rising in your body because you are doing the reading writing learning style instead of aligning with your predominant auditory learning style. And that's where the stress is. It isn't necessarily the topic or even the person. We might think it is. We might think that the stress is being caused by this person we're talking to, or the topic of conversation, but in fact it could be simply that you need to jump on a call and talk it through with this person. So using collaborative conversations, coffee chats, maybe becoming a mentor would be a really nice use of your auditory learning style. Do not shy away from informational interviews, even if you're not quite ready for what's next in your career or actively pursuing something. You will, from I guess I would say emotional and even just from a health perspective, you will that creates sort of a thriving part of you, having these conversations and deliberately going after them. Because again, for informational interviews, it isn't that you're even considering a job search. In your mind might be 3 years out. But those conversations can help you get more clear about what you really would want to do next. It can help you learn about other people and their career paths. And all of that helps with your auditory learning leaning. You also might, of course, listen to career-minded podcasts when you're on your walk or you're working out. I'll bet you listen. If you listen to a lot of podcasts, you're definitely an auditory learner. And practice your interviews out loud. So if you're going to, for interview prep, you can read all the notes, right? Like, oh, make sure I arrive on time and make sure. But it's really good idea to either do a mock interview with somebody or just practice how you would respond to those questions. Like put the questions on the screen on your laptop and then look into the camera as if you're on Zoom, or go on Zoom and record it and practice your interview that way. Auditory learners love to hear things, and the sound of your own voice. Heck, why not? So third one is kinesthetic learning. That's the person that understands best when they can move something, touch something, physically engage with something. So kinesthetic learners can feel information in their bodies, like it's very visceral. effect for them. Movement fuels their thinking, helps them to get clear on things. Sitting still too long. So that's why these are, your kinesthetic people have the walking desks, right? Those are the ones that, if they're sitting down too long, their creativity is stifled, their clarity is like gets foggy. So if you're a kinesthetic person in your rest of your life, if you grew up and your parents or your parents' friends would always be like, oh, that Lori, she never stops. She's always going, right? You probably were kinesthetic, and she's always building things. That's kinesthetic. And if you're spent sitting at a desk all day, sitting, no wonder you feel exhausted and disengaged, right? So figure out ways to create more movement and physical touch in your job. Because because you're kinesthetic, because you discover meaning through embodiment, not just hearing words like theory, you need to physically try things on. So think about walking meetings. So if you can, with your team or a teammate or a colleague, do a walking meeting to generate ideas or solve problems. Use physical objects to represent your goals. So this is my auger shell. And this it's a reminder for me of a particular, it reminds me that that I can relax, that I don't have to think so hard, work so hard, chase so hard. It's really a helpful reminder about how to avoid burnout for me. And there's a whole story behind my auger shell, but that's for a kinesthetic person. And I will visually, pick this up. I have other things as well that help me. I have my little telephone that reminds me that I'm always connected to everyone. It's a little miniature dollhouse telephone. I've probably talked about it before because it's one of my favorite things, but it's a reminder for me. I am kinesthetic that way. I need physical reminders, and I'm just opening my drawer because I have like this beautiful stone that I will rub. So you can see that I am absolutely a kinesthetic learner. And that helps me. What it helps me is if I start to feel again on edge, here's another one I have. It has a lot of different meanings for me, but one of them is it's just, again, a way to calm myself, ground myself, feel connected to the world versus like I'm floating off. And so they're taking walking meetings, using the physical objects that can help represent goals, but they can also help you get grounded, stay grounded, and like I said, as reminders of how you want to be in the world. That's a really good use of the physical objects. You might also create what I call like a prototype mindset. So this is where and again, this is career focused, but you get to experiment with a role, or you get to, you will experiment with a project or a task. So you may be thinking about different ways to organize your calendar, right? A kinesthetic person should get in there and start working with the tools, and not, but from a prototype perspective, meaning I'm just going to explore this. I'm just curious about this. Let's see how this is. And then let's build out this tool and see how it would work. And as you're building it out, right, even though it's on the screen, so you might technically say that's not necessarily physical, but there's something about watching, for a kinesthetic learner, watching something be created from nothing. That lights up their kind of architecture part of their brain, their builder part of their brain. So redesigning your workspace for movement, like standing desks that I mentioned, or sitting on one of those round balls that sort of require you to move more. I have a book over here that's yoga stretches for the office. So, just opening up the book, putting your finger on it, and being like, okay, I'm going to do that yoga stretch and that yoga. I'm going to do these 3 yoga stretches right now. So getting up, walking around is very important for a kinesthetic learner. And finally, the reading, writing learners. So these are people that understand best when they can either write something down, they can organize something, or they can read the information themselves. So I take notes when I'm talking to people because it helps me stay focused. And even though, it's in a way it's kinesthetic because I'm feeling that pen and it's helping me do that. But then I go back and I can read it and then it really sinks in, right? I do like lists. I like to organize things. And there are times where I do a lot of reading on Kindle, but there are times when I'll look at a potential book suggestion and I'll be like, this is a book that I need to actually have in hard copy. Because maybe it's the kinesthetic side of me as well. They're, for me, I think pretty closely aligned. But because I want to be able to highlight things, and make notes on it. And read it and read it and read it again. And I do highlight in my Kindle, but it's not the same. And so I do think there must be a connection between my pen and underlining something, that kinesthetic pen, and then that visual reading, learning part of yourself. So a reading, writing learner kind of translates the world into structures or into a language or into a framework. You might hear them use words like, I'm going to create a framework for this. Writing is how you think. So if you're a big journaler like I am, that is how I download, get clarity, all the ways in which I can kind of process my day or process, maybe a hard conversation or something like that. That's when I tap into that learning style for myself. And reading helps deepen the meanings for you. So when you think about reading, writing learners, you find clarity through reflection, through journaling, through creating order out of chaos. You thrive when information is structured, and you struggle when it's not. And again, through coaching, in conversation, I can tell, oh, this person is a reading, writing learner that we need to help them get a framework around their day, because that's why they're feeling so anxious, and because things are just not connecting for them. And so we need to put it down in writing. We need to create some sort of a visual, again, it's visual, but so I think all of these learning styles kind of flow together. We probably all have all of them. And then others are more predominant, or in certain situations, one becomes the one that you lean into more because it makes the most sense for that situation. But because they like to create order out of chaos by using frameworks and things, they like this information to be structured, and they struggle when it's not. So what they can do is they can have a daily end of the day, like to-do lists are really good for them. At the end of the day, they can also, we do something inside of Career Alchemy Academy called a career retro, or retrospective, where we sort of, at the end of every day, I encourage my alchemists to really look at and write down all the things that went really well for them that day, things that didn't go so well, things that they might like to do differently. And this helps them to kind of get it out of their body onto a page. It is a reading, writing, learning style tool that can, again, just calm the nervous system. So keeping the clarity journal at the end of every day, or just doing a retrospective, writing out scripts, or having frameworks. When I was first, learning how to talk to business leaders about, when I was first in recruiting, like a newbie, I wrote out every sentence of what I was going to say when I got on the phone with an IT leader and wanted to talk to them about the job opening that I was hoping they'd let me help fill. And I'm listening to my boss, and I remember my boss saying, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I got to write down every word. I'm going to practice it all. I have to write it down, and then I'm going to say it out loud because auditory learning, I'm going to practice it, and I'm going to use my pen kinesthetically to write all of that down, and then I'm going to look at it." And I would actually, and this might be, I would say, a visual tool for visual learners, is the imagination of how the conversation was going to go. That's a very, like, in my head, visual thing that I would do. So for these reading, writing, just keep a to-do list, have a journal, write out the scripts or frameworks, create templates, organize your digital life so it mirrors your structured mind. Be thinking that you want these things to be a reflection of each other in alignment with how you like to work, so that, and takes advantage of the learning style that works, that fits best for you. Consider these things. So your learning style is the path to career alignment. The more aligned your learning style, and there's other areas too, but the more you can look at your learning style and make sure you're aligning your day, your desk, again, if you're a person who needs a lot of movement, that you're blocking those off on your calendar, getting up and making sure you go for coffee every once in a while, and then or go into the coffee room, or if you're working from home, that you go upstairs, and because I happen to work in the basement, or walk out of your office and just get the mail, and then go and pet the dog, or take the dog for a short walk, or make your lunch. Don't make it the day before. You're better by making it in the day, because it gets you up and moving. So just organize your day to align with your, think about this, as Wei said, you can better align how you like to learn and how you learn best with how you structure your day, and watch your stress levels go down, watch your productivity, efficiency, and career satisfaction go up. And notice if the culture that you're in doesn't support your learning style. You may always feel like a square peg in a round hole, and it isn't necessarily. You can look. It's so funny because people can say, on paper, it makes no sense why I just don't feel like, every day I kind of feel like I don't fit in. And it's not the leaders, and it's not my team. It could be that the way that they structure the culture is so far away from how you learn best and how you operate best, that you always feel a little, right or left of center. And it's not anyone's fault, right? It's just not the right fit. So when your career actions, your work environment, your daily routines match your how you your brain naturally learn, you're going to work, your work feels easier. It just does, right? It just, things, you're like in that flow state, right? Decisions become clearer, opportunities seem to be more predominant, or make more sense even. Like opportunities for this project or that project seem to make more sense. Your confidence will grow. Like I said, your stress levels will decrease. Your meaning increases. Your motivation flows again. So your learning style can be that compass that points you towards alignment, and where the work you're doing in the world is aligned with who you are, how you like to work, and doing the work that lights you up. When all of that is coming aligned, you are a career alchemist, and you have transformed something that was mismatched into something that completely fits you like your most favorite shirt. So that's what I have to say for today. You could always DM me here on LinkedIn or on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. If you want to schedule a call, you can go to our website, www.inspiretech.com, inspihertech.com, and hire me as your coach. Join Career Alchemy Academy. Like, 2026, let's align who you are with the work you're doing in the world. Why not? All right. I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I look forward to next week. I have no idea what time I'm coming on. I can't remember, but generally 1 o'clock on Wednesdays. If you sign up for my newsletter, we put in there what times I'll be going live on LinkedIn. So if you like to come and if you're an auditory person, you like to hear me, then sign up for the newsletter and show up here and listen to me talk about my blog, which I write and email out in the newsletter. But if you're not a reader, writer, learner, you don't need to be, because you can come here and hear me talk about it live. So that's it for today. Peace. Stay warm if you're in this cold front here in the US that's moving through. Chicago's going to have like -40 wind chill, I hear. -30, -40 on Friday. I mean, I haven't heard that one in a long time. I'm going to be staying inside, cuddled up. Talk to y'all soon.